Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, we will be taking a look at the Greek gift sacrifice. I have compiled a 5-step checklist, and at the end of the video, we will be taking a look at exercises to test your knowledge and see if the Greek gift sacrifice actually works. Before this video begins, make sure to like and subscribe. It only takes 3 seconds and it really helps me out a lot. So for those of you who have never heard of the Greek gift sacrifice, it's a tactical sequence designed to open up your opponent's king. Now for this to work, your opponent has to castle kingside. This is very important, but just to quickly illustrate how this works, you first sacrifice your bishop on h7, you follow up with a check from your knight, and the whole point is that in a very short amount of time, we have gotten rid of a key kingside pawn, and very quickly we have activated 2 pieces, and already we are looking at certain checkmate threats. This is the whole idea behind the Greek gift sacrifice. Now we're going to take a look at specific variations. So bishop takes h7, king takes h7 of course is the most forcing. Later on we're going to take a look at king h8, knight g5, and in this position black has 4 moves. So as I showed previously, king g8 is the most critical move. If king g8 works, then the other variations more likely than not will also work. King h8 is by far the worst option because after queen h5, king g8, queen h7 is checkmate in 2. Black can also try to go to h6, but the problem here is that this runs right into the bishop's scope. So knight takes f7 is a double check and you're going to end up winning the queen. King g6 is a decent try, but here we have the very important move pawn to h4. And the whole idea is that we are threatening pawn to h5, and either black's king is going to go to h6 where we already know what to do, or the king goes to f5 which will lead to a checkmate in 2. So if, for example, black plays b5, we go h5, if king h6, knight f7, we win the queen, and if king f5, then queen d3 followed by queen f3 is a checkmate in 2. So for this reason, king to g8 is the best move from the black side. We play queen h5, we're eyeing the h7 square, and it's very important that black does not have a way to defend against the h7 square. This is what's very often forgotten. In some variations, a knight, which is let's say on d7, can swing over to f8 or to f6, and this defends the important h7 square. In some other variations, the light squared bishop can, for example, go to c2, for example, or to d3 or to e4, also defending against the h7 threat. So these are things you have to take into account before you actually sacrifice your bishop on h7 at the beginning of the line. Now in this specific line, I've made it quite simple. There's no way for black to defend against the h7 pawn, and one reason for this is that we have a very nice wedge on e5. Something you should keep in mind, if you can play e5, this is usually a very good indication to go for the Greek gift, right? You've opened up the scope of your bishop, and you very importantly prevent the knight coming to f6. So this is a very good sign. There's no knight f8, there's no bishop c2, there's no way to defend against the h7 square. The best thing for black is to move the rook to e8. After the move rook e8, it's important not to rush with queen h7 check. If we give this specific check, the king goes to f8, queen h8, king e7, queen g7, and we don't actually have a follow-up against the black king. The black king, even though it's in the middle of the board, is actually somewhat safe, right? Rook f8 is a good move to defend against the f7 pawn. And of course, we're still winning, but this is not a clean conversion. Instead, when the rook moves to e8, we first give this check. King h8 only move. Now we go back, and the difference is there's no f7 pawn. So this is what you do against king takes h7. What if instead black plays king h8? Now very experienced players will play the move king h8 knowing that this entire sequence loses for them. So after king h8, what you have to understand, if there's really no way to continue attacking, you can always slide back to d3. You retreat back to d3 and you've won a pawn. This is very, very underappreciated and not played enough from the white side. However, in this position, we actually have a much better follow-up. We play knight g5 regardless, and we are eyeing queen h5, right? So if black plays a move like b5, we swing our queen to h5, and there's actually no way for black to prevent checkmate. Right, we're going to go bishop g6 check, and then we're going to go queen h7 checkmate. So black cannot play a random move like b5. Instead, black is advised to play pawn to g6, preventing our queen coming to h5. And now, while our queen can't go to h5, we play queen to g4. And we're eyeing either queen h4 or queen to h3. So it takes a move longer to get to the h file, but it's completely worth it because the king is so unbelievably weak. So queen to g4, and black doesn't actually have any good options. If black tries a move like f5, well then, like I mentioned, we slide our queen to the h file. Queen e7 is maybe a decent try, but after something like bishop takes g6, bishop h7, we can take on f5, we're eyeing certain threats. This is completely winning. There's no need to get into the exact details. All you need to know is this idea of going queen g4 and sliding to the h file. That's all that's necessary. The final thing we will take a look at in this king h8 line, we play queen g4 and what to do against king to g7. Now this is by far the best try from the black side. However, we have a beautiful sacrifice to win us the game. Knight takes f7. We're attacking the queen, so black is advised to take with either the rook or the king. But regardless what black takes with, queen g6, queen g8, and bishop g5 will lead to a devastating, devastating attack. So even this king h8 move over here does not work. This just shows the power of the Greek gift sacrifice. So with all of this in mind, let's now look at the 5-step checklist I have compiled, which you have to examine before actually playing the Greek gift sacrifice. So the first step of the checklist, do we have a bishop somewhere on this diagonal which can sacrifice on h7? The answer to that question in this position is yes. Now, very important, this also works from the black side. It's just that the squares will be a bit different. The question would then be, do we have a bishop which can sacrifice on h2? Now, to keep it as simple as possible, in all of these positions, I've only taken it from the white side, but of course, this also works from the black side. So step 1 is achieved. We have a bishop which can sacrifice on h7. King takes h7 is the most forcing line. And then the second step is, do we have a knight which can jump to g5? Now, sometimes in some positions, black will have a queen on d8 and a bishop on e7. And in those positions, you absolutely cannot play knight g5 because black has 2 attackers against the knight and white only has 1 defender. So this is something you always have to take into account. In this position, we can follow up with knight g5. King to g8 is the most critical move. And the third step, do we have a queen which can move to h5, combining with the bishop, eyeing certain h7 checkmate ideas? In this position, the answer is yes. The fourth step is the step which so many people forget. Do we have the means of bringing our queen to h7? So often, black will be able to bring their knight, let's say, to f8, to f6, or bring their light squared bishop somewhere on this diagonal. All of these moves defend against the h7 square. So before you actually sacrifice your bishop, so in this position right here, you have to ask yourself the question, in this entire sequence right here, does black have a way of defending against queen h7 check? The answer to that question in this position is no. The fifth and final step you have to examine before playing bishop takes h7 check. After the move queen h5, does black have a way of running their king to the center of the board? right? So we've looked at the fourth step. We are capable of bringing our queen to h7, but sometimes this isn't enough. Even if we give this check, the king can sometimes make a getaway to the center of the board. This we do not want. Now in this specific position right here, this isn't possible because we can first give this check on f7, right? And we've already been down this entire line. Right here, this is checkmate on g7. But this step is very important and something you absolutely have to take into account before playing bishop takes h7 check. Before we get into the exercises, I would like to show you guys a tactical motif if the Greek gift does not work immediately. So in this position, we can go through the checklist and we will quickly realize the Greek gift does not work. So step number 1, do we have a bishop which can sacrifice on h7? Yes, we do. But the second step, do we have a knight which can jump to g5? The answer is no. We only have one defender and black has 2 attackers. So we cannot play the move knight g5. Now, just because we cannot play knight g5, this doesn't mean we should completely abandon the Greek gift idea. We should ask ourselves, is there a way to add another defender of the g5 square? And if we put it this way, the answer becomes somewhat clearer, pawn to h4. And the whole idea is that if black makes a random move like b5, for example, now the Greek gift works because king takes h7 and now we can play knight g5 check. If the king runs to any of these squares, the ideas are very similar to before, but if black takes on g5, well, now we take on g5 with the pawn, opening up the h file for our rook. So h4 is actually a very, very beneficial move if we cannot play the Greek gift because of step 2 not working. This is something you should really keep in mind. So h takes g5, king g8, we slide our queen over to h5, and very important in this position, we're threatening queen h7 and queen h8 checkmate. The only real way for black to escape checkmate is to move the f-pawn. And here it's very, very important not to rush with the check, queen h8 or queen h7, because all you need to calculate is queen h7, king f7, g6, and the king is actually safe on e8, believe it or not. So instead, in this position, you play the very calm move, pawn to g6. You don't allow the king to escape on f7, and regardless what black does, queen h8 is checkmate. This is something very important to keep in mind, this g6 idea to not allow the black king to escape to the center of the board, which is essentially step 5. So going back to this position right here, we played the move pawn to h4, and we imagined black plays a very bad move like b5. What is a better option from the black side? Well, what looks to be better is pawn to f6. And the idea is very simple. You are adding a third defender of the g5 square. And it looks like you are now forever preventing white from playing knight g5. However, you don't. White can still play knight g5. And the whole point is that after f takes g5, now we get a bit of a different type of Greek gift sacrifice. We take on h7. If king h8, then the queen comes to h5 and there is devastating effect. So king takes h7 is forced. Now we play h takes g5 check. Very important not to rush with queen h5 check. I will explain that later. So h takes g5, king g8, and now the very, very beautiful rook h8 check. You sacrifice your rook, you bring your queen to the side of the board, and pawn to g6 once again prevents the king escaping to f7, and queen h7, queen h8, will lead to checkmate. So going back to this position, why does the move queen h5 check not work? Well, the reason is after king g8, h takes g5, black has the resource rook f5. We can't play g6 because then we would lose our queen. And if we give this check, the king slides to f7, slides to e8, and black is actually safe. So for this reason, it's important to first take on g5 and now sacrifice the rook. Right? If we played queen h5 in this position, rook f5 would be a transposition. So we have to find a way to do the same thing, but in a faster way. Rook h8 check is the most forcing move because now queen h5 check is a check, right? Black doesn't have time to play rook f5. And now we play g6, and black is not in time to play the defensive move rook f5. This is a very important nuance. Also, something I would like to mention. If black runs to g6, this is simply suicide. Queen h5 and pawn to g4 is a very pretty checkmate. So this is what we do against pawn to f6. We still play the move knight g5, and we look for a very typical Greek gift idea with the opening of the h-file. What else can black do? Well, black can also try the move pawn to h6. This prevents bishop h7 check, but now we see the true genius behind pawn to h4. We lift our rook to h3. This is a very nice move. And the whole idea is that we can now sacrifice our bishop on h6. G takes h6. We give this check on g3. The king goes to h8. And now the very nice move, queen to d2. And queen takes h6 is actually unstoppable. And this is a very nice checkmate. So this is what you do against pawn to h6. You lift your rook and you actually sacrifice the other bishop on h6. The final thing we will look at is what to do against the move pawn to f5. Now this is by far the best move from black because this prevents our bishop sacrificing on h7. This actually prevents our step 1, right? Can our bishop sacrifice on h7? So we cannot play bishop takes h7 check. What do we do instead? We play knight g5. Now, unfortunately, after bishop takes g5, h takes g5, pawn to g6, we do not have any forced checkmate. However, we are still much better positionally. We have a very nice control of the dark squares in black position. We have the open h-file, so we're looking to maybe double up on the h-file. We're looking to maybe bring our queen over to h3 and just slowly massage the weak black king. Right, this is one of those positions you don't have an immediate win, but you're positionally much better. It's very difficult for black to generate any form of play because you have such a very nice and pleasant position. So this is the general summary of what to do if you cannot play the move knight g5 because black has this overprotected with 2 pieces. You first play h4 and now you are threatening these Greek gift ideas. If pawn to f6, you play knight g5. If pawn to f5, you play knight g5 again. And remember, here you're looking to play against the weak h7 pawn. You're looking to maybe stick a rook on h6, for example. And the final thing we will look at is if pawn to h6, you lift your rook up to h3 and you are looking to sacrifice this bishop on h6. With all of this in mind, let's now take a look at various exercises to test your knowledge of the Greek gift sacrifice. So this is the first exercise I have prepared for you guys. Does the Greek gift sacrifice work? Let's go through the checklist step by step. Step number 1, do we have a bishop which can sacrifice on h7? The answer is yes. The second step, do we have a knight which can jump to g5? It looks okay because black does not have a bishop on e7, so that's good. However, what's the big difference with this position and the position we had before? The biggest difference is that black has a bishop on g4. Right, before black's bishop was somewhere here, now it's on g4 and it's pinning our knight to our queen. And something which I see so often from beginners is that beginners calculate bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight g5, and wherever the black king goes, we're going to take the bishop and we're going to recapture the bishop which we have sacrificed. Right, so we gave up a bishop for a pawn, but then we play knight g5 and queen takes g4, we recapture the bishop and we're a pawn up. That logic is good, but there is a fatal flaw. So bishop h7 check, king takes h7, knight g5 check. If in this position the king moves somewhere, then absolutely queen takes g4, we've won a pawn. However, so many people forget black can sacrifice their queen back. And the whole point is that we cannot take the bishop because it's defended by the queen. And if bishop takes g5, bishop takes d1, king takes d1, we are actually down a full piece. Remember, we sacrificed our bishop at the beginning of the line. So in this position, the Greek gift sacrifice does not work because black has a bishop on g4. Really keep this in mind. This is the position of the second exercise I have prepared for you guys. I would recommend you to pause the video right now and really go through the checklist and see if the Greek gift works. So let's go through it step by step. Step number 1. Do we have a bishop which can sacrifice on h7? The answer to that question is yes. We can play bishop takes h7 check. The second question, do we have a knight which can jump to g5? Well, let's have a look. Black does not have a bishop on g4, connecting from the last example. Black does not have a bishop on e7. So yes, we can follow up with the move knight g5 check. We're only going to look at the most critical line, which is king g8. Very important. If king g8 works, then the other lines, so king h8, king h6, and king g6, more likely than not will also work. That's something to keep in mind. And when you're calculating the Greek gift, really only look at king to g8. So let's go through it again. Bishop h7, knight g5, king g8. Step number 3, do we have a queen which can swing over to h5? Well, the answer to that question is yes. We can play queen h5 in that position. The fourth step, does black have a way to prevent the queen going to h5? Let's have a look. We have a pawn on e5. This is very good news. So knight to f6 is not possible. Black doesn't have a bishop, which can, let's say, go to c2 or to d3, defending against h7. Black does not have a way to prevent queen h7 check. And the final step, the most difficult step, does black have a way to run the king to the center of the board? So let's calculate again. Bishop h7, king h7, knight g5, king g8, queen h5. Well, we are threatening the move queen h7 check, mate. So black is advised to slide the rook over to e8 to create some luft and prepare the king to run to the center of the board. But if you recall from the position right at the beginning of the video, we remembered the second the rook moves from f8 to e8, we first give the check on f7. Remove the f7 pawn, and then we go back, and then we go for the sequence, and we checkmate on g7. Let's see how this looks like for those of you who maybe could not visualize this. So bishop takes h7 check does work. King takes h7. Knight g5, king g8, queen h5, rook e8. Very important, we do not give this check right here, because after king f8, queen h8, king e7, queen g7, we do not have a forced checkmate. Rook f8 prevents queen takes f7. So instead, we need to find a way to remove the f7 pawn. How do we do that? We first give this check right here. King h8, queen h5, king g8, queen h7, king f8, queen h8, and queen takes g7 is a checkmate. Now, something I would quickly like to mention right here is I often see beginners not know what to do against the move pawn to f6, because all they've analyzed is what to do against the rook moving. Now, what you have to understand is that visually it looks like you're creating an escape square for the king. However, you are not. Yes, black is attacking the knight on g5, but the knight is still holding the f7 square, so the king cannot run to f7. Queen h7 is checkmate. Just something to keep in mind. Let's now move on to the third exercise. This is the third exercise I have prepared for you guys. Pause the video and go through the checklist to see if you can play the Greek gift sacrifice. So, step number 1, do we have a bishop which can sacrifice? Yes. Step number 2, do we have a knight which can jump to g5? Yes. Step number 3, do we have a queen which can go to h5? Yes. Step number 4, does black have a way to defend against queen h7 checkmate? The answer to that question is yes. Black does in that position have a way to defend against queen h7 checkmate. So really look at all of the pieces. The knight can't go to one of these two squares, so that doesn't work. The bishop can't go to e4, because remember, we have a rook, we have a knight, we have that square completely covered. But look at the queen. The queen can slide to d3 in that position, holding the h7 square. So let's take a look at this. Bishop takes h7, king h7, knight g5, king g8, queen h5. And in this position, white, an international master, missed the move queen to d3. The very subtle move which completely kills all of white's play. White can try a move like rook to d1, but simply queen to g6. And a queen trade is unfathomable. Remember, white sacrificed the bishop at the beginning of the line, and there's simply no more threats, right? The h7 square is forever covered. Black is up a clean piece. So really keep that fourth step in mind of, does your opponent have a way of preventing the queen coming to h7? This is very often forgotten, and this queen d3 really is a phenomenal resource. This is the fourth exercise I have prepared for you guys. Pause the video and ask yourself the question, does bishop takes h7 check work in this position? So step number one, yes, we have the move bishop takes h7 check. Step number two, can we bring our knight to g5? Well, it looks like black has it covered, but remember, we have the move h4 already made. What does that mean? We can't play the move knight g5, and if black ever takes, remember, we get that line where the h file opens against the black king. So that works. So step number three also does work, because if black doesn't take on g5 and instead goes king g8, then we can go queen h5, remember. Step number four, black does not have a way to prevent the queen coming to h7. And step number five, black does not have a way to run the king to the center of the board. Just quickly for the step number five, if black has a rook on f8 and the queen is not looking at the f7 pawn, so if the queen is not, let's say, on d7 or on e7, it's very difficult for the king to actually run to the center of the board, right? Because the rook is completely blocking the king's escape. And if the rook ever does move, the queen can then take on f7 in those lines. Granted, black's queen isn't holding the f7 square. So these are kind of little clues you should keep in mind. So this is a very typical position where the Greek gift works. So bishop takes h7 check, king h7, knight g5. In this position, black decided to play king to g8. We bring our queen to h5, threatening checkmate. Bishop takes g5, h takes g5. Black plays here the move pawn to f6. Really think about the correct move. I see so many beginners here automatically look for checks, but remember, you're not looking really for checks. You're looking for step number five. You're looking to prevent the king running to the center of the board, right? Queen h7 actually helps the king run. You have to look at the king running to the center of the board. f7 is the only escape square for the king because of the rook on f8. So you shut the door with pawn to g6. Really, really remember this move. Here we have the fifth exercise. Pause the video and take a look if the Greek gift sacrifice works. So let's begin with step number one. Can we play the move bishop takes h7 check? No, we cannot. We cannot play bishop takes h7 check because the knight on f8 defends the h7 pawn. I very often see beginners miss this idea, right? They miss the fact that this knight is covering the h7 square. And something to keep in mind, if we cannot play the move bishop takes h7 check, and in this position, of course, we can't because of the knight, very often, like 80 to 90% of the time, the best move is knight g5. Granted, of course, you can play it. Now, in this position, we can play it because we have the h pawn, remember. But very often, this is simply the best move, looking to open up the queen, right? Looking maybe to rook lift. You're eyeing a kingside attack without immediately playing the move bishop takes h7 check. I hope that makes sense. The last two exercises I have for you guys are really tailored towards advanced players. So I'm talking 1800 plus. The first game I have for you guys is a game played by Capablanca, former world chess champion from the white pieces. So pause the video and ask yourself the question, can Capablanca play bishop takes h7 check? So let's take a look. Step number one, Absolutely, we can sacrifice our bishop. Step number 2, we can absolutely play knight g5. Step number 3, can we bring our queen to h5? Yes, we can. Step number 4, does black have a way to prevent our queen coming to h7? And the answer to that question is yes. Black can play the move knight to f6 in that position, attacking our queen and defending against h7. Now, does that mean we cannot play the Greek gift sacrifice? Well, no, not really. Let's see if we can do something about the knight coming to f6. Right, if the knight couldn't come to f6, there's no way for black to prevent queen takes h7. Right, there's no bishop, which is on this diagonal. There's no queen, which is on this diagonal. The knight can only go to f6. This is the only resource black has of defending against h7. So let's go down the exact same line and see if we can include something in between. So bishop h7, king h7, knight g5, king g8. So if in that position we play queen h5, black plays knight f6, and we lose. But wait a second, we have a rook on d1, so we can actually sacrifice our rook. We can sacrifice our rook. It doesn't matter what black takes with, and then queen h5 is a devastating threat against the h7 square. Let's take a look. Bishop takes h7 was played by Capablanca, very good. King h7, knight g5, king g8, and the very important move, rook takes d7. Like I mentioned, if queen h5, then black has the move knight to f6, and there's simply no moves. If black decides to go to h4, for example, there's always knight g6, and if black ever goes to h3, there's always pawn to e5, and the queen is perhaps not lost, but the queen will have to evacuate the h file basically immediately. So for this reason, it's super important to first sacrifice your rook and then play queen h5. This is the last exercise I have prepared for you guys. Once again, this is for advanced players, so pause the video and see if the Greek gift works. So, step number 1, absolutely, bishop takes h7, no problems there. Step number 2, knight g5, no problems there. We have the h pawn, which gives an extra defender of the g5 square. Step number 3, yes, we can swing our queen over to h5. Step number 4, does black have a way to prevent the queen coming to h7? And the answer to that question is actually yes. And the reason is very difficult to see. So there's no immediate way for black to bring a bishop, a queen on this diagonal. However, there are some intermediate moves black can do to kind of put the pieces on this diagonal. So, in that position right there, black has the move knight c2 check. If the king goes to the d file, then queen takes d4, comes with devastating effect. And if the king goes either to e2 or to f2, then black has the move bishop to a6 check, and black will rotate the bishop, let me use a different color, to d3, holding against the h7 pawn. I know that's a lot of arrows. Let's take a look. So, bishop takes h7, king takes h7, knight g5, king g8, queen h5, no problem so far. And in this position, black has the move knight c2 check. So like I mentioned, if black plays a move like king to d2, running to the d file, now queen takes d4, king takes c2, and let's say queen f2 check, queen f5 check, and the h7 square is protected by black. So this doesn't work. If the king goes, let's say, to e2, well, now bishop a6 check. If king e3, then queen d4 check is devastating, defended by the knight. And if the king goes, let's say, to f3, then bishop to d3, and the h7 square is protected by the bishop. So what's crazy is that in this position, if we go all the way back right here, white actually saw this, and for this reason played the move knight to g5. Like I mentioned previously, if the immediate bishop takes h7 check does not work, and in this position it does not because of these crazy knight c2, bishop a6 ideas, the best move 90% of the time is knight g5. You're bringing a second piece into the game and you're eyeing certain sacrifice ideas, maybe a rook lift. You have very nice kingside play. With all of that in mind, we have reached the end of this video. I know there was a lot of theory. I know there's a lot to think about and take into account, but hopefully with all of those exercises, the Greek gift at least has become clearer. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you guys in the next video.